Welcome to Timber&Terra. I'm Glenn. If you happen to watch the last video, you might recognize this area. It did not really end that well for me, but I did hopefully make it passable. This is my attempt to sort of neaten up this road entrance into the woods a little bit more after I had dug ditches to the right there, removed a couple trees to the left. So I just wanted to sort of improve this before I started bringing more material deeper into the woods, like from my corduroy road. So I'm going to try my luck again with another load of gravel. So if you remember from the previous video, or even if you didn't, what happened is I wanted to tailgate it up this little hill. And so I had the dump bed up a little bit, I released the tailgate, and it never released. The issue was, I think this linkage, so I went through and I greased it again. You know, sprayed some lubricant on there. That's all. So everything except grease. I think I had to replace one grease fitting. But that's the linkage that I'm guessing between that and just simply the you know, the pressure against this linkage, so that when it rotates, the shaft rotates counterclockwise. So right now you can see that pivot there to the left, which connects to this arm that goes back, is actually above the center line. So right now it's sort of latched. Even if you know, even if this cylinder wasn't there, it's going to stay latched. So that cylinder has to overcome that little bit of movement to get it basically to the 9 o'clock position, and then once that happens, it'll sort of release all by itself just from the weight of the tailgate. So we'll try this again. Now, to tailgate better, I should have had the dump body up a bit more before I released the tailgate. That would have allowed all the material to come out before it was done, but understandably, perhaps you can understand, I was a bit gun shy. I didn't want the last time to be repeated. Well, I consider that a big success, not because it was really a textbook example of tailgate spreading. Certainly that is not. A success because, one, it dumped out, and two, I didn't get stuck. Well, it's done. Didn't go quite the way I was hoping it would, but I guess all in all, it's not bad. I do have a bit more gravel off to the edge, particularly the left here, than I wanted, but it's not enough to worry about, not enough to spend time trying to drag that back out. So it may actually not even be quite as smooth as it was before. So I may let it settle down again, and then maybe when I take the bulldozer out, back drag it with the bulldozer blade, which is quite a bit heavier than the excavator. It does a better job back dragging. But this is sort of the ditch that I wanted to maintain, and I think that's still gonna do well. The other thing I wanted to do is raise, basically where the tree is, this sort of went down steep and then flattened out. So if I was to raise where the tree is, which I did, probably 10 inches or so, maybe a foot, it just sort of softens this curve to make it more gentle, you know, from where it comes into the woods, basically down to where that little swampy area is, where the dead pile of brush is. Okay, so this is done, easily passable, ready to be packed down. So let's bring some material into the woods. Well, we're back here at this borrow pit finally. So I stripped off, I'd say, about a third, maybe a quarter of the area that I have mowed. And I'm going to work my way back. I think it was the last video, that pile of lighter color stuff was digging around a rock which appears to be immovable, at least for that piece of equipment. So for now, it'll be exposed now, because I'm going to change the grade, lower it obviously, just sort of be a fixture in the field or the backyard, whatever this happens to be. Eventually there'll be a house up there somewhere near that pile of green grass, which is a pile of sod or topsoil. So what I'm trying to do here, sort of just beyond the excavator, is the sort of this hump, and you can see it's a low area there, and then it's sort of flat. So if you can make out the grade here, what my plan is sort of where the front tires of the tractor are, to the left where the field is mowed, is to sort of make a straight line, rather than this go up and then back down. So it's sort of that hump in the middle that I'm looking to remove, one, to make this field a bit more flat or level, and to use the dirt. These bigger rocks, the bigger ones I'm going to put in the bucket. I probably have some spot in the woods with roads, or maybe sort of a little bit of a retaining wall to help shore up a road where they can be of use. So I'll just sort of hand pile those in the bucket each time I come back here. Some of these smaller ones I may throw in the bucket, or may just include in the fill. So for the first part of here, really, I'll probably maybe just use the excavator blade and push some of that over until there's really enough to sort of start loading it into the trailer. Because over here, there's not much grade to remove, but over there where the pile is, I'm guessing it'll be at least 2 or 3 feet. So that's the beginning of it. Even that still is a little bit high. I can go down further, but So this is probably the last that we'll see of the borrow pit until the end of the video, after several loads are dumped, give an idea of what I'm doing, and then we'll come back and just sort of see what this landscape looks like. Gosh, there's a lot of rocks. It's really rough. Boy, to do this with a dozer would really be rough too. You go over those rocks and it really just gives you a jar in the operator's seat. I'll need to look at the video to see exactly what happened, why the chains fell off. I had it set open pretty wide because I knew there were some bigger rocks. Yeah, I'm probably just better off not even chaining it and just driving ahead as I dump, and maybe just control the dump. This is pretty dry. It's moist, but it's dry, so it should flow out a lot better than sort of the wet clay that I'm used to working with. But this will work well to smooth it out. You can see the little ruts there, I think should smooth out well. So probably one, maybe two more loads on this section of road, and then I'll start covering the corduroy roads. Wow, I think that actually went better than I was thinking it might. I thought I really would, particularly hauling the trailer with extra traction needed on the wheels, if I'd really jumble up these poles. Didn't do too badly. So next time when I come around here, I should just be able to ride over top of this. So I also thought I'd show you up here where I'm putting these rocks. So every time I come in with a load, I have a bucket full of those sort of the handleable rocks. But so I'm just a little pile of rocks here to sort of act as foundation for the road, make sure it doesn't sort of spill off to the side here where it does slope down a bit more into the sort of the swampy area. So this is sort of some of the muddy stuff that I'm dealing with in this sort of loop of road, which is this, and it seems to be relatively shallow because you can see ledge here is not too far down. This ledge right there, or bedrock. And this is an area where this same sort of clay I've dumped before started to grow a little bit of grass. And as long as it stays dry, meaning it's sort of above the adjacent grade, it seems to be fine. But you can see here when it's a low spot and when it doesn't get to drain off and it sort of sits in a little wet spot, it will become muddy. So I've been very surprised as to why this didn't settle in more. In retrospect, and some of the viewers have commented I probably should not have used these sort of rails, sort of upside down railroad tracks, as I described it when I put it in, because even those didn't sink in much. You can see here, you know, this is probably 2/3 of the diameter of that particular one is above grade. This one's more buried. But as you can see, almost none of these poles that cross are in the mud at all. I don't know, maybe just driving through a little bit of mud seems like a lot more than it actually is. But it still is not passable. You go through here and you'd sort of swerve as the bedrock underneath was, or roots were redirecting you because it was so easy to slide sideways. I guess I shouldn't ride off the rails. So, what happened there, I was trying to avoid just making that mud hole deeper where I came down off the poles. In doing so, I sort of had the left wheels off the side of those upside down rails that I put in, so it allowed the poles to stand up like that. Well, these are those two loads here on this little crossroad spread out. Really, like here you can just see them just trying to fill in the low spots. Ideally, I would back drag it, make it a bit smoother, but the issue is going to be rocks like this going to catch under the blade and just, this really wouldn't turn out any better than it is now. Oh, that's a big rock. So what I'll do is I'll just ride over this. This is a lot better now than it was. I'll just pack it down, and then, you know, in the coming months, if I need to top dress it again, I can. If I think I need to do a better job of a smooth road, then I would always, you know, just buy gravel. So this little section here is part of the loop that I'm making when I dump the material on the corduroy road, which is down there. So I come into that sort of big intersection that you probably noticed when we first came in, take a right, go down there, dump the load across the corduroy, and then come in here, make that sharp turn to the left, and then come up this road and then back out. So I think I mentioned earlier, my intent for this road really was just to bypass that section by the pond where the corduroy road is, because that has a sharp turn, not as sharp as this one, but about a 90-degree turn. So I wanted to have this sort of bypass road so I can make it to the loop, which is up there, which accesses my property to the border, to the property line that way, and then again another loop around, really just sort of confined by the swamp on that side, or the stream, and on that side there's some ledge, sort of a ledge ridge that goes there. So that's what this loop does. It just sort of accesses everything between those two constraints. So the bulldozer, I think, is significant overkill for this particular work. Skid steer, compact track loader would be much better, but since I don't have one, the bulldozer is what I use. I've tried to use a tractor in instances like this before, and either just I'm not good enough, or the traction with the wheeled vehicle is not the best. And I don't know, I just can't do it as well. So I can do a better job with the bulldozer here, even though it's overkill versus a tractor. Someday a skid loader might be in my repertoire. Well, I've tried several times and it will not dump. I'm guessing it's just loaded heavier in the front than I had been. I've had this happen, I think, once before, many years ago. I ended up taking a shovel and shoveling some off, but I don't have a shovel with me right now. So I'm sort of sitting level now. What I think I'll try is to, this goes uphill just a little bit. So I think I'll try putting the trailer so it looks like it's heading uphill, and that might give me just enough to get those cylinders to start. Once they start, they're fine. It's just sort of getting off the horizontal frame. Well, I mean, that worked out well, but it's not my ideal scenario because now I have this spot here I got to come back and fill. I guess it's really not a big deal, but I did have to back up because the rocks I have in the bucket I want to place up here in this little mud hole. So I think if this did not have the shallow ledge and it was sort of a bottomless pit of mud, then just putting rock here without any, well, corduroy road or fabric might spell disaster, but it really is sort of resting on the bedrock, I think. You know, there's bedrock here, that's what this little hump is. There, you can see it, I think I pointed this out before here. It's right there. So it's real shallow on this whole sort of ridge. It's all very shallow. But you can see what I've done here before with the clay. It's probably 2.5 feet thick between there and there. I did that, I think it was last year, and it firmed up nicely. You know, minimal erosion, even though it's probably a fair amount of water that comes through here. And like I said, except for that low spot there where it never had a chance to dry off or the water couldn't shut off, it's really dry. And I've been over this numerous times and it's hard as a rock. Granted, I would not want to come through here just after a rainstorm. It'd be a little bit slick on top. Well, that's the access road, so I backed in here the last time, but every other time I drove in. And this is basically the beginning of the corduroy road. If I remember right, when I did this video, I think I said it was 85 feet long of corduroy. There's a bunch of wood sticking out. Ah, but this is so much better. Now with the corduroy road, see, my opinion is, I mean, this is working well, and I'm sure it will work. Even if the wood rots, the road is still going to be a lot higher than it was, and I suspect if it does rot, it might create a dam. So any water that runs down off these hills, I'm guessing now, is sort of going to go underneath the wood and out. But if it rots and compresses, it may act as a dam and start running over. So in the future, maybe not even in my lifetime, maybe some drainage will be necessary here. But it was a good experiment. I'm yet to be sold on a corduroy road versus the alternative, which if I didn't do a corduroy road here in this sloppy mess, I would have laid down fabric and put down the same material. In my mind, the fabric, with the exception of drainage underneath the road, the fabric would have basically done the same thing. It sort of make this layer of clay just sort of float. But I would have had to have had drainage, you know, a couple 6-inch pipes or something like that. So basically 85 feet to here. I think that's sort of the last log. And then this was just sort of, you know, up and down ledge. You have this little area here I kept adding rocks to make this a bit better, because it's a bit of an outside curve, but just to sort of keep the material from sort of wanting to sort of spill over here where we're standing. I think that'll work. Plus it was a place to get rid of rocks. So many rocks. You can see here, I felt it when going over to this ledge, this little high spot that I pointed out earlier with the bulldozer. So I went really slow. One is because I'm just not, I can't react quick enough when the bulldozer's doing this to make sure the blade doesn't sort of dig in and dig in where I don't want it to. I'm pleased with it though. Boy, such a difference. So now, as far as down here goes, I need to figure out what to do on the rest of this loop. And I think what I'll do is I'll show you, sort of review the map that I've done in previous videos, basically of where we are, where that little crossroad fits in, which I've been using with that little sharp turn. So this is the area right here of the corduroy road. This is that sort of shortcut that I put the first 2 loads in. This is that real sharp corner. And this was sort of that 90-degree corner I referred to. So the borrow pit that I'm taking from is right up here somewhere. So going down the road through the woods beyond the pond. And here I've been taking a sharp right going into here. And then around the corner and then dumping basically from here to here was sort of where the dirt is. The corduroy road is only probably a third of that distance. Okay, well, before we end things, let's go up to the borrow pit and see what that looks like. So here we are. So you can see probably 3/4 in on this sort of strip. But as I mentioned, very little was taken from here. Trying to judge, you know, as I mentioned, from sort of the edge of the sod pile over to there. I want a straightest line as I can get. Granted, after is all said and done, I'll still, you know, can manicure it a little bit with the bulldozer. So there's plenty of material to go still, and I have plenty of uses for it. So it's going to get pretty thick up here with the bucket sitting. So over here at the edge where I had stopped mowing, I think I'm going to actually mow a bit further. That's a black cherry tree. I want to save that, and that's sort of on grade anyhow. But this, I think this is an ash. I think I'll probably take this little tree out, and then, because I'm still sloping downhill a little bit, because just beyond the trees in here is our property line. So basically from the edge of the tree line is probably where I'll sort of start tapering it down. So take this tree out and then just mow all this at a time. But for now, here we are. I may not video all the uses of this. It's going to be a similar process. I thought this was interesting just because it involved the corduroy road and sort of establishing this borrow pit and trying to get the contour the way I want to. So I hope you enjoyed this. I appreciate you watching, and I hope you stay tuned for future videos. Thank you very much.